Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I have to say, I wasn't expecting to be this interested in Molly and Vaughn after watching the latest General Hospital spoilers, but here I am thinking about them long after the scene was over. You know how sometimes a show quietly plants a little seed without making a big fuss about it? That's exactly what this felt like to me. Down here, folks would say where there's smoke, there's fire, and I can't help wondering if the writers are testing the waters for something much bigger. What really caught my attention wasn't some dramatic explosion or shocking arrest. It was the way Vaughn and Molly carried themselves around each other. Molly stepped into the police station with Danny Morgan and Charlotte Cassadine, hoping to learn something about Jason Morgan and Valentine Cassadine. Like any good federal agent, Vaughn didn't give away information he wasn't supposed to share. He kept his cards close to his chest, and honestly, that's exactly what I expected from him. But the moment that stayed with me came later when Molly spoke to Vaughn privately. She wasn't trying to bend the rules for herself. She was thinking about those two kids, hoping they could at least receive a phone call or maybe even a letter to ease their fears. That tells me a lot about Molly's heart. She wasn't chasing answers for the sake of curiosity. She simply wanted to give Danny and Charlotte a little peace of mind during a frightening time. I also noticed something in Vaughn's response. He didn't promise miracles, and he didn't suddenly become an open book. Instead, he agreed to see what he could do. Sometimes it's those small moments of understanding that leave the biggest impression. It felt natural, respectful, and surprisingly comfortable between them. I've watched enough soap operas over the years to recognize when the writers might be quietly measuring the audience's reaction. They don't always announce a possible romance with fireworks. Sometimes they just let two characters share a few meaningful scenes and wait to see if viewers notice the spark. Now, does that mean Molly is about to leave Cody Bell? Not necessarily. As far as we know, she's still happy with him. But I'll tell you what, soap operas have taught me one lesson over and over again. Relationships rarely stay peaceful when secrets start piling up. And Cody is carrying around some awfully heavy baggage. The truth about Alexis Davis once keeping Rick Lansing chained up in her basement isn't exactly the kind of secret that disappears on its own. Secrets like that have a funny way of showing up at the worst possible time. That's why I can't ignore the timing of Vaughn's return. Maybe it's nothing more than a few well-written scenes between two likable characters, or maybe General Hospital is quietly placing another piece on the chessboard before making its next big move. Either way, I find myself paying much closer attention to every interaction between Molly and Vaughn, because sometimes the smallest moments end up changing everything. The more I sit back and think about everything that's unfolding, the more convinced I become that Cody's biggest problem isn't another man, it's the truth he's been carrying around. I've lived long enough to know that secrets have a way of growing heavier every single day. You might think you're protecting someone by keeping quiet, but sooner or later those same secrets become the very thing that tears people apart. That's exactly the feeling I get when I watch Cody these days. From my point of view, Molly has always been someone who values honesty above almost everything else. She's practical, thoughtful, and she doesn't rush into judging people. That's one of the reasons I've always respected her character. But there's a big difference between making a mistake and intentionally keeping someone you love in the dark. If Cody truly knows what happened with Alexis Davis and Rick Lansing and chooses to stay silent, he's gambling with something far more valuable than a secret. He's gambling with Molly's trust. I'll tell you something my old neighbor used to say every time somebody tried to hide the truth. The truth doesn't knock, it kicks the front door in. That saying has stayed with me for years, and I can't help thinking about it whenever I watch General Hospital. This show has built countless stories around hidden secrets, and they almost always explode at the worst possible moment. I don't believe Cody will be any different. What worries me even more is how deeply Molly could be hurt when everything finally comes out. It won't simply be about learning another shocking piece of Port Charles history. It'll be about realizing that the man she trusted looked her in the eyes day after day while choosing not to tell her the whole story. That's the kind of betrayal that sticks with a person. You can forgive someone, but rebuilding that broken confidence is another challenge entirely. I honestly think the writers are slowly preparing us for that emotional fallout. They aren't rushing it, and I actually appreciate that. Sometimes soap operas move so fast that relationships change overnight, but this feels more patient. It's as if they're allowing every little decision Cody makes to add another crack in the foundation before the entire relationship finally begins to crumble. Then there's Vaughn. And I have to admit, he's become much more interesting than I expected. When Bryce Durfee returned, I figured he'd simply move the larger Jason and Valentine storyline forward. Instead, he unexpectedly found himself sharing scenes with Molly that felt surprisingly natural. Nothing flashy, nothing over the top, just two intelligent people communicating with mutual respect, and somehow that left a stronger impression on me than some of the grand romantic moments we've seen over the years. That's why I can't stop wondering whether General Hospital is quietly planting seeds for something bigger. Soap writers love to test chemistry before making a major commitment, and if that's what they're doing here, I'd say they're off to a promising start. Molly and Vaughn didn't need dramatic declarations or lingering romantic stares. Sometimes chemistry reveals itself in the smallest details, a calm conversation, a shared understanding, or simply the feeling that two people naturally make each other comfortable. If Vaughn eventually transfers to Port Charles permanently, I could easily imagine him becoming someone Molly leans on after her world falls apart. Life has a funny way of bringing the right person along just when someone else has shattered your confidence. That doesn't mean Molly would immediately jump into another relationship. Honestly, I hope she wouldn't. I think she'd need time to process everything, to heal, and to rediscover what she truly wants. But that's exactly why Vaughn could fit into her life so well. He doesn't strike me as someone who forces his way into people's hearts. He seems like the kind of man who earns trust one conversation at a time. Meanwhile, Cody could find himself facing a battle he never expected. Up until now, he may have assumed that his biggest obstacle was keeping his secret hidden. But what if that's only the beginning? What if, by the time he's finally ready to explain himself, Molly has already started seeing someone who offers the one thing she's been missing all along, complete honesty? That possibility alone raises the emotional stakes in a way I find incredibly compelling. And let's be honest for a second. Love triangles have always been part of General Hospital's DNA, but they only work when every character has believable motivations. Right now, I can actually see those motivations taking shape. Cody is trying to hold on to a relationship while carrying dangerous secrets. Molly is unknowingly building her future on trust that may soon disappear. Vaughn is quietly entering the picture without creating unnecessary drama, which somehow makes him even more intriguing. That combination has all the ingredients for a storyline that could keep viewers talking for months. At the end of the day, I don't think this story is really about choosing between Cody and Vaughn. To me, it's about whether trust can survive once it's been broken. That's the question that keeps running through my mind every time I watch these characters. If Cody loses Molly, it won't simply be because another man showed up. It'll be because the choices he made opened the door for someone else to walk into her life. So I'm keeping a very close eye on where this goes next. Maybe Cody will find a way to come clean before it's too late. Maybe Molly will decide their love is worth fighting for, despite everything. Or maybe Vaughn's arrival is the beginning of an entirely new chapter that nobody saw coming. Whatever happens, I have a feeling we're only seeing the first pieces being placed on the board. And if General Hospital has taught me anything over the years, it's that the quietest moments often lead to the loudest emotional storms.